Welcome everyone to another Edge of Fate build video, and today I'm kind of bringing you a somewhat related build to my last Hunter Stasis build using Massive Backrest, and that's just because a lot of you guys commented saying since I liked Massive Backrest so much and I like that build that I should try it using Massive Fealty. And so I did just that, and you guys were right. This thing absolutely cooks, it fries. I'd obviously changed the build up. I tweaked it to fit Massive Fealty, so it's not the exact same build. I'm not just copying what I did in a couple videos ago. But yeah, this thing is a lot of fun. I appreciate all the recommendations. Thank you for telling me to try it out. With this build, basically, you're just gonna have infinite ability spam. You're gonna have a whole bunch of freezing and slowing and stasis crystals all around you on your screen at all times. On top of that, you're obviously gonna have frost armor from all the slowing and the freezing and the stasis shards that you're gonna collect. On top of the stasis effects and all the slow and crystals and stuff, the build is pretty open once again, and you can use honestly whatever weapons you prefer. In the video, you're going to see me use Winter's Bite, and that's just because it is a featured exotic weapon. Since Massive Fealty is a featured exotic gear, I figured I might as well just pair it with a weapon that's also featured so that you can use this build inside of avant-garde modifier missions. But honestly, any type of stasis weapon or even solar weapons will work for this build. So if you have a preferred or a favorite weapon in those categories, you can slap that on with this build and you will see no difference in performance. In the video you're seeing, this is me using it on stasis, but I also ended up making a prismatic build with it as well, but I think I'm gonna drop that in a later video just so this video isn't 40 minutes long. So feel free to subscribe if you do end up wanting to see that later on. What you're watching right now is me use this build inside of a mythic difficulty weekly campaign mission. And as you can see, as long as you're playing right, it honestly will make it pretty easy. Later on in the video, I do end up taking the build into a live solo obstacle dare where I am minus 50 power level there as well, just to give you a live gameplay kind of feel for the build. Real quick too, I just want to give a quick shout out to you guys. I really appreciate all the love and support I've gotten recently. My last Arc Hunter video kind of popped off, and I really appreciate all the love on it. Because of that, we did hit 3,000 subs, so thank you for that. I did make a promise to one of my friends that if I did hit 3,000 subs, I'd give their cat a shout out on a video, so shout out Dio. But that's enough of the side tangent and me yapping for an introduction. Let's actually get down and break down exactly what you run on the build and why what we are running is viable in high-end content. All right, so first things first, we're obviously going to be using the Mask of Fealty. That is the whole point to this build. For those of you who don't know, it just makes it where Withering Blade hits will bounce and create small stasis crystal and will also refund a portion of melee energy. Whenever you use the Withering Blade to shatter crystals or frozen targets, it will release a spread of Withering Blades. And then just to show you what that looks like, if I go ahead and throw a Withering Blade, as you can see, it'll create a little tiny stasis crystal. Now, one good thing to note using Mask of Fealty, since it uses that stasis crystal, all you need to do to freeze a target is hit them with one of the Withering Blades. If I go ahead and take Mask of Fealty off, as you can see, it doesn't freeze. It's just going to slow, and that's because that stasis crystal it creates applies the extra slow stacks that will then make the enemy freeze. So like I mentioned before, Mask of Fealty will also grant melee energy based on every enemy you hit. So when I throw this shuriken here, make sure to look at my melee energy down there at the bottom left every time it hits an enemy. As you can see, for every couple of hits, it will go ahead and generate like a little chunk of melee energy there. So basically, by the time you throw out a couple of shurikens, you'll already get a whole charge back. And then last but not least, once again, whenever you do shatter a crystal or a frozen target using it, it will release a little set of like extra shurikens that will then also create 3 more stasis crystals for you. Massive Fealty is very good on Prismatic, but like I mentioned earlier, I will just actually make a separate Prismatic build for a different video. So right now we're just going to focus on purely stasis. For your abilities, you're going to want Gambler's Dodge. This is so important to keep the melee rotation up and going. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip over to this first aspect here. We're going to be using Grim Harvest. This thing is going to be the most important thing to run on this build. Grim Harvest is so good on stasis currently. Grim Harvest makes it where whenever you defeat a slowed or frozen target, it will create a stasis shard. Grabbing those shards will then grant you melee energy. But the most important part is the bottom texture on Grim Harvest, where whenever you do pick up a stasis shard, it will actually give you frost armor. And frost armor is going to be key. It's going to be needed for any type of high-end content to keep you alive. All right, just to go ahead and demonstrate it for you, I'm going to go ahead and kill a slowed or frozen target. It will then create a stasis shard. Grab that stasis shard, and as you can see, I now have frost armor there in my buff section. Now, pairing with Grim Harvest, we're going to go and use Whisper of Conduction. This will make it where those stasis shards will actually come to us. They will automatically like kind of track towards us so that we don't have to physically go out our way to pick them up. And then the other fragment that's going to pair really well with Grim Harvest is Whisper of Rhyme. This will just make it where we have more frost armor stacks. We can go to ×8 instead of ×5. Now for the other aspect, there are two options. It kind of is up to you, and it depends on which kind of way you want to take the build. And those aspects are going to be Shatter Dive or Winter's Shroud. In the gameplay I use, I'm going to be using Shatter Dive, and that's just because I remember on my last Stasis video, a lot of you asked if I could use Shatter Dive in that build. So I figured I might as well just include it in this build for the people that do love Shatter Dive. This will just be used to do honestly big chunk damage on any frozen target or any stasis crystal, since we're going to have a lot of those up with this build. But the other route you can take is with Winter's Shroud, and the main reason that this will also work really well is that bottom text there, where slowing targets will briefly increase your class ability regen. So if you just look at my class ability here, I'm gonna go ahead and use it up. I have 0 class ability. Now I'm gonna go ahead and slow a bunch of targets using my Withering Blade, and just watch how fast I get my class ability up. And the reason that's going to be really useful, obviously, is to get your melees back as fast as possible to keep the rotation, the loop going. Or as always, if you want, you can go Shatter Dive, which is what I like to use, and that also works for people who like to Shatter Skate. So it is up to you, but for now I'm gonna use Shatter Dive. For the other fragments, we're gonna go ahead and use Whisper of Refraction. This makes it where when you defeat a slowed or frozen target, it'll grant you class ability energy. Whisper of Shards, where shattering a stasis crystal will boost our grenade recharge rate. And finally, Whisper of Fractures, where if we shatter a frozen target with a melee attack, it'll grant us frost armor. And this does work with Withering Blade, so just shatter a person who's frozen with Withering Blade and we'll get frost armor. So combining Grim Harvest plus Whisper of Fractures, we should pretty much be at ×8 frost armor at all times. Now for weapons, there are a whole bunch of options that work really well in this build. Since Massive Fealty is a featured gear exotic, I figured for weapons, I'll just use featured gear weapons as well, so that you guys can use this build in avant-garde stuff. But I actually ended up choosing Winterbite as my favorite. Other options include Aegir Scepter or Wicked Implement. It is up to you, but I really liked Winter's Bite for a couple of reasons. So the first reason I like Winter's Bite is because of its capability to just freeze targets very easily, which we then can pair with Massive Fealty and Withering Blade to create a whole bunch of those like Withering Blade like kind of AoE attacks. Because remember, anytime you hit someone who is frozen or a stasis crystal with it, it'll create that big AoE attack. So if there's a big group of enemies, you can do that and then just hit it with that, and then they should implode. The second reason I really like it is because, once again, it is a glaive, and glaives provide insane survivability. You can just block with them and take 0 damage as long as you're not getting shot from the back, obviously. Then last but not least, since it is a glaive, it's going to have obviously a melee feature to it, which is very nice, but this will also apply all of our other type of melee kind of related stuff in the build. And that includes increased damage from melee stat. It also includes Whisper of Fractures here, where shattering a frozen target with a melee will give us frost armor. So if you look as you melee with Winter's Bite, it actually does apply slow, which means it can freeze targets, which means if you kind of shatter them using Winter's Bite counts as a melee, you then will get frost armor passively just by doing glaive melees. For your other two weapons, it is up to you. Just something I can recommend is a solar weapon there in the energy slot. And that's because solar weapons have a lot of synergy with a lot of our artifact perks. What I'm running is Mint Retrograde, which is obviously the go-to this DLC. Everyone's using this thing. And then I like using Yeartide Apex. Obviously the preferred rule is Heal Clip Incandescent. In the gameplay, you'll see me use this one. That's just because I prefer drip over functionality. Now, speaking of artifact perks, let's dive in. There's gonna be a whole lot that is required for this build. First things first, you're gonna want Fever and Chill. This is just gonna make it where when we land precision hits with our solar weapons, it'll give us radiant, and precision hits with stasis weapons will grant us frost armor. So obviously I recommend using a solar weapon so that we can get radiant from this, but being radiant from that will then also proc radiant shrapnel. Dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant or defeating a scorched combatant with a weapon causes the target to release a solar projectile that will deal damage and scorch on impact. For those of you that don't know what that looks like, if we go ahead and kill a scorched target, it will release that little flaming thing there. And it may not look like much, but I promise you in a big group of enemies, it will actually do a whole lot of damage. Up next is Cauterized Darkness. This will make it where any stasis or strand debuff targets will take more damage from solar damage. Obviously, everything's going to be slowed or frozen with our Withering Blade, so therefore our solar weapon will do more damage to those targets. Up next is one with Frost. This will only apply if you are using a stasis weapon. This makes it where when you have frost armor, stasis weapons will gain increased reload speed and stability, and then stasis swords will also gain increased guard resistance. Up next is Frost Renewal. This makes it where when you have frost armor, if you take any type of critical damage, it will release a big burst around you that will freeze a bunch of targets. Here is what that looks like when I hit red bar here. If you see, I release a big freeze around me that will freeze majority things. You're going to want Refresh Threads. This will just make it when you do pick up a Stasis Shard, it will grant you ability energy. Elemental Coalescence here will make it where when we defeat a target, it has an increased chance to give us a Stasis Shard. And last but not least, you're going to want Shield Crush here. This will make it when we do have Frost Armor, our melee actually will charge faster and deal increased damage. For stat distribution, honestly, the most important thing and really the only thing that is absolutely needed is as high as melee stat as possible. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. Get your melees back quicker and they will also deal increased damage. Other things to spec into is high class stat, just so you can get your class ability back quicker, and high super, just so you can get your super back quicker. Now for mods on our helmet, you're going to want Thermodynamic Siphon. You do need this selected in the artifact perks to be able to have this mod show up, but this makes it where our solar weapons and stasis weapons will both create orbs of power. The next one, I would use Powerful Friends if you are playing in a fire team, but if you're playing solo, I would recommend Harmonic Siphon. And then hands-on here just to get super energy on melee kills. On the arms, you're going heavy-handed, so we are creating orbs of power on our melee kills. Focusing Strike here to get more class ability energy when doing damage with our powered melee. And then Melee Font here just to boost that melee stat even more. For the chest piece, whatever resistance you prefer, I like Concussive Dampener here. And then Health Font just to boost our health more so that we do get more health on orb pickup. And then in the last slot, I either recommend Harmonic Resistance or running Harmonic Ammo Generation, depending on if you're running a stasis weapon or not. For boots, go ahead and run a Weapons Font just to increase our weapon stat. I recommend Better Already here so that when we do pick up an Overpower, we get immediate health regeneration. This is going to be needed because honestly, Orbs of Power are our only form of healing in this build. And then you're going to want Absolution here just to get ability energy on Orb of Power pickup. Finally, on our class item, go ahead and run Time Dilation to make your armor charge mods last longer, Class Font to boost our class stat, and then Outreach here to reduce our melee cooldown whenever we do use our class ability. So yeah, that right there is the whole build. I know I just did a lot of talking. If you made it through that, I respect you and I appreciate you. If you have any questions, please drop them down below. I will try to answer them, and if I don't get to you, I'm sure someone else will. But for now, let's go ahead and get into some live gameplay for you. All right, since this is the featured solo ops for the day, we're going to go into solo ops Caldera here. The mods I've applied, we're going to go ahead and be 53 light under for this solo ops. All right, so first things first, when entering a gunfight, you're going to need frost armor. So currently I don't have any frost armor. So the way I like to get that off rip is I like to shoot a Winter's Bite shot because it should freeze a lot of people. Get a couple frozen kills, and then from there should be some stasis shards up there. Let me worry about this detainment first. We're gonna go ahead and freeze him, grab these stasis shards. So now we have frost armor, so we should be able to take a lot more damage before we die. All right, we got a big freeze there. We're gonna go ahead and I can't tell where they are because they're shrouded, but we're just gonna go ahead and finish these guys off with our Mint Retrograde. All right, there's an overload. Once again, slow does stun overloads. So we're actually, what we're gonna do is just go in using a Winter's Bite. And just whenever we need to stun them, just hit them with a melee. All right, just like that. Like I didn't stand a chance. All right, once again, we have no frost armor here, but I also don't have any Winter's Bite. So I think we're gonna start the fight. Pre-pop a super here. Let that kind of go freeze some people, get a couple kills to create some stasis shards. Go grab the frost armor and then go to town. And it looks like that worked out perfectly. This guy on the wall. This game never ceases to amaze me with the dumb things that happen. Oh, I just realized I'm stupid. I never destroyed. I actually never did the objective over here. So give me 1 second. We got to take a detour. All right. There we go. 2 objectives down. 1 more to go. All right. Once again, we're going to enter the fight with that. So get some frozen kills, get us some frost armor. This guy teleported through both of my things. I'm terrified. Actually, Mint Retrograde will burst him down. All right, beautiful. Thank you for the engram. And objective 3 is done. All right, low key, we're gonna do the death trick where if you just die right here, it'll teleport you straight to the boss fight. I know I shouldn't be doing this probably during a build showcase, but I'm lazy and we're just gonna skip past these enemies because you can do it too when you actually do solo ops Caldera. See? Easy peasy. There we go. We're past the first health gate. Let's go grab this special ammo real quick. Why is he not teleporting? There we go. This is an extreme waste of Winter's Bite, but I just want to get out of this boss fight. Clear them out. Give me those stasis shards so I can get ×8 frost armor. Now we're just gonna plink away at the boss once again. All right, just for fun, let's go in and finish him with some Winter's Bite melee. Oh, please kill him before I die. Please kill him before I die. Oh, I'm stubborn. I'm gonna stick it. I'm gonna stick it. All right, we're good. That was close, but we did it. Okay, so that right there was the entire Mask of Fealty build. Once again, thank you to the plenty of comments I got in my Mask of Bacchus Stasis video saying to try out Mask of Fealty since I enjoyed Mask of Bacchus. You guys are right. I really enjoyed this thing. I do have a build on my channel from a while back using this thing, but now it's Edge of Fate. Things are different. And this version is way better. So I do appreciate all the recommendations. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. I make build videos just like the one you just watched all the time. We did just hit 3K subscribers, so once again, thank you for that. As always, if you have any build recommendations for me, drop them down below. And if I do like it, if I do try it out and actually like the build, I will possibly make a video on it and put like your comment and stuff and shout you out in the video. So please, please, please feel free to drop recommendations down below. That's it from me. If you made it this far, I love your face. And all you fine, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your day.